been listening to this discussion. I came late. I was in another hearing, but uh, the problem I've always understood with nuclear power is it's prohibitively expensive to build. Plants that are 40 years old that are fully amortized can compete with other forms, but a new plant, the figures I remember, and I may be somewhat out of date, about $5 million a megawatt for a new nuclear plant, $500,000 a megawatt for a gas plant, about 1.5 million for a wind project. Nuclear power just isn't remotely competitive economically in terms of new plants. Now, the key, it seems to me, is innovation and development of these new alternatives that can bring that cost down. But uh, I mean, I don't see how we can be having this discussion, at least about new conventional nuclear plants, because the cost just isn't even in the ballpark. Am I wrong, Mr. Lynch? What's the cost per megawatt of a new nuclear power plant today in the United States?
Well, Senator, the initial capital cost of new nuclear power is certainly higher, that initial capital investment, than a number of other generating sources.
It's not only higher, it's massively higher.
But
It's
taken over,
prohibitively higher.
but taken over the lifetime of the facility, which extends 40, 50, 60 years, and levelizing that cost of energy, it's quite competitive. If we focus on nuclear power with a 3-year time horizon, like many organized markets do, it can't compete. But if you think of the total value of a nuclear plant and its lifetime, much like any other capital-intensive asset, and levelize that cost, it's actually quite competitive. New nuclear designs are lower capital costs per kilowatt installed, shorter construction durations, and smaller sizes to reduce that initial capital investment. And like the existing nuclear plants, when thought of over their lifetime, are quite competitive.
I appreciate that, and that's why I emphasize that I think demonstration projects, R&D, additional support for the new technologies that can bring that cost down, and also the construction period. A question about rate making. Your point is well taken of the lengthy life cycle of 40 or 50 years. Do our current regulatory structures allow for that kind of spread out of the cost? Because the problem is the bankers or the people, the finance, they want their money back, maybe not in 3 years, but they want it back in sooner than 40 years. So is there a way to levelize the cost in terms of impact on the ratepayers?
Yes, we have various regulatory structures in the U.S., which is part of the complication. For integrated investor-owned utilities, Southern Company, for example, that's building the Vogtle site, the regulators providing oversight can work with them to do exactly that. For the Tennessee Valley Authority, where we're public power, we continue to operate our plants quite successfully and could build new nuclear because, once again, we have the regulatory construct to amortize that over the life of the plant and levelize that cost and make it competitive. When you move to organized markets who, by their design, have short-term focus, day ahead, week ahead energy markets, 3-year capacity markets, that regulatory structure makes it very difficult to build any investment that takes a high upfront capital cost but delivers significant benefits in the long term. And I think if we're going to preserve our
understand that I've done business in those markets, and the problem is they essentially discriminate against any capital intensive energy form. They make natural gas pretty much the only alternative.
Yes, and to Senator Manchin's earlier question, that's why the existing nuclear fleet struggles in those markets, and it's an issue that we really need to correct to preserve that fleet.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank